Hi, my name is Justin, aka Ghost Reader, and today I'm going to be doing a discussion video on The Two Towers, the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm reading this as part of Octolkein, which is being done by me, Steve Donoghue, and James Chatham. I am basically reading The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which includes the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, and Return of the King. And Steve Donoghue is reading the Silmarillion. He has done 3 videos on that, which are really good. I suggest you go check those out if you're interested in hearing about the Silmarillion. And James is reading some of the other works by J.R. Tolkien. But basically, the point of Tolkien was basically to give us a chance to read J.R. Tolkien's the rich works by him, and also to talk about some of his works that we find really interesting. So today I'm going to be talking about the Two Towers. So spoiler alert, if you haven't read the book or the movies, I suggest you go watch and read those first before you watch this video. So the Two Towers, it picks up basically where the Fellowship of the Ring left off. You have the Fellowship is split up in 2 groups. So Frodo and Sam are headed off into Mordor, and Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are basically by themselves trying to figure out where everyone else is. So the book starts off with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and what you find out is that Boromir has been killed, and Merry and Pippin have basically disappeared. They have been taken by orcs from Isengard, who have been sent out by Saruman to capture the halflings, because Sauron has information that's told him that the halflings may have the ring. Unfortunately for him, the orcs have taken the wrong halflings, but they pick up the halflings and they're running to basically Isengard. So Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas give chase. They run into the Riders of Rohan, who actually have destroyed those group of orcs, and they fear that Merry and Pippin may have actually been killed. But instead, they run into Gandalf. But they also realize that Merry and Pippin are also still alive, but they have their own mission to accomplish at this point. So they ride off to Rohan. And basically at Rohan, they meet the king, who is under the influence of an evil advisor named Wormtongue, who Gandalf frees from his terrible clutches, and you find out that Wormtongue is actually an agent of Saruman. So Saruman sends his armies against Rohan. Rohan stages an epic defense at Helm's Deep, and push back the armies of Isengard with the help of Gandalf at the final hour. So Gandalf and the King of Rohan, Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli then ride off with some other riders from Rohan to Isengard, and they find Merry and Pippin there, who basically catch them up on what they have been doing. So Merry and Pippin, having survived their encounter with the orcs, end up meeting the Ents, who are kind of like the guardians of the forest, and they have adventures with them, which lead them to attacking Isengard and basically locking Saruman in his tower. And then their story ends with basically Gandalf riding off towards, I believe it's Gondor at the end of their story. With, is it Pippin? See the Pippin or Merry? I don't remember off the top of my head. On the other side, you then have the story of Sam and Frodo, who are now walking off towards Mordor, with just thinking that they don't really know where they're going. They just know they're at that east, and they run into Gollum, and they convince Gollum to lead them to Mordor. They reach the Black Gate, but they see they can't go in that way. There's too many guards there, and Gollum then takes them another way, where they run into Faramir, and who is out on patrol for Gondor, and he turns out to be Boromir's brother. And that's how they find out that Boromir's been killed, and Faramir sends them on their way. And you find out that Gollum has actually been crafty all this whole time, and actually has been leading he's been leading Frodo and Sam towards a trap. And they encounter this giant spider, in which Sam thinks that Frodo is dead after the encounter, ends up not being dead, and when he goes to try to rescue him, he ends up knocking himself out. And that's where the story ends. It ends with basically Frodo possibly dead, but no, ends with Frodo not dead but in serious trouble, and Sam out cold with the ring still on his finger. So it doesn't look good for Sam and Frodo. So now with the synopsis out the way, what did I think about the book as a whole? I thought that this was a great read. I found it to be better than the Fellowship of the Ring. The pacing was a lot better. It didn't feel like it didn't feel long and drawn out, kind of like the Fellowship of the Ring did at times. And everything seemed to actually move the story pretty much forward. It always felt like we were moving forward with the story. And I really liked this book. And I think one thing that's missing from this book that is missing from Fellowship of the Ring was the battles. And you have basically Helm's Deep, which is this grand defense by the riders of Rohan against the host of Isengard, where they're outnumbered by the odds against them are insurmountable, and they put up this great defense of Helm's Deep. And J.R. Tolkien's writing for this battle is just amazing. Like you feel the urgency, you feel the slight tinge of hopelessness in the defense, but also feel the bravery and gallantry of the soldiers there. The atmosphere of the siege, you feel it all in the reading. And this is, I think, even more so for me because I'm listening to his audiobook. So, in the background they have like the soundtrack from Lord of the Rings, and you hear like the yelling of the orcs in the background. And I think actually reading this as an audiobook is, of course, is a different experience than reading it on the page, but it's also been like a really entertaining experience because you get a lot of, I mean, when you read on the page, you have to imagine it yourself. And J.R. Tolkien does a really good job, I think, anyway, of getting you to the point where you can imagine the grand scale of the things happening here. But also, here's listening to an audiobook, just like in The Hobbit, where the songs being sang was like the extra cherry on top that made made it stand out even more than just me reading it off the page. And then in this sense, hearing all the extra special effects and background noise in the background as you're reading the book, just amazing. And I think that having that battle in this book was absolutely great. Another cool, interesting part of the Two Towers was the standoff kind of between Saruman and Gandalf and the people that there was with him. Now, Saruman is known for having a very, let's say, convincing a convincing voice. Basically, like when he talks, he's able to really have a power over you. And when you see this when Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli are in the forest and they think they see Saruman, they want to, like, Gimli's like, we need to attack him quickly because if we let him talk, he's going to basically get a hold of us. And you see this here where Saruman is facing off against the King of Rohan. He's in his tower, which they can't get in, and he's looking down at the King of Rohan and his soldiers and Gandalf, and he basically starts talking to him. He's like, say, hey, like, we can be friends again. Like, you came here, you attacked me. Like, it's a huge misunderstanding. Let's just be friends and everything can be fine. And it seems to work there for a minute. It seems that he is going to convince the riders of Rohan to actually make peace with him after everything that he's done. But he fails in that. The king snaps out of it and he's like, yeah, we'll be allies and we'll have peace when you basically are dead. And then Saruman moves to Gandalf. And one thing about Saruman that was also in the Fellowship of the Ring is that he comes off very arrogant. Like he is sure of his powers, but he comes off as very prideful. Like in the Fellowship of the Ring, he made sure to emphasize when he was talking to Gandalf the Grey, and you see that still that pride is put on a show here when he's facing off against Gandalf. Gandalf basically offers him a chance to basically be a free man. All you have to do is just kind of stay out of everything and we'll let you go. And Saruman is like, what? And it's his pride that keeps him from taking that choice, even though he knows that he's facing the bad situation. The men and the free peoples of Earth hate him because they know he's a traitor, and Saruman also knows he's just a traitor too because he was trying to get the ring for himself. And so he really is between a rock and a hard place, and he still won't take the offer. And at the end of this standoff, you see that Gandalf now is the more powerful, where Saruman was Saruman the White. Now Gandalf is the White, and he breaks his staff. Gandalf breaks Saruman's staff, and I think that's was showing where Saruman's powers have his power, his strength has been broken. Along in that was it was a very powerful scene. It was very well written scene there too, because you can kind of, especially the voice actor, he did a really good job in making Saruman sound very, very like enchanting and convincing when he's trying to convince the king of Rohan to join his side. Another really cool thing were the Ents. So the Ents are like the guardians of the forest. They're really, really older, I believe, than even like the elves themselves and the dwarves. And the Ent that Merry and Pippin meet, Treebeard, he's called. He basically is your introduction to the Ents, and the Ents are these old creatures, and when they talk, everything they say are like really, really is really, 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 really long. And so when they talk, when they do speak, they make sure that it is something very important that they have to say. So the value of speech in that type of society where it takes you forever to say something, you're not going to be doing idle chatter, are you? Things that you say are actually stuff that is going to be meaningful. So that means that every time these trees are talking, these Ents are talking to each other, they are in fact saying very meaningful things. And so and they're slow to everything. They are not hasty, as Treebeard says. And they're like trees. Trees take a very long time to grow and to mature, and that is these Ents are like that. They're very slow and deliberate, unless they're pushed to anger. When they're pushed to anger, when Treebeard finally and the rest of the Ents get together and decide to attack Saruman, who's basically betrayed them and has been cutting down trees of the forest. When they go and they attack Orthanc, they're not slow at all. They attack, and they attack very fiercely. So they can be hasty when the time comes. And they're just really interesting creatures that can actually move whole forests, can herd whole forests and move them. As when at Helm's Deep, suddenly there was a forest there, and the people in Helm's Deep was like, "Whoa, where did that forest come from?" I mean, that's quite some power to be able to do that. And then with Sam and Frodo, you have Gollum, who is this very despicable creature that you get scenes in the Hobbit, but you really get to see him here. And Frodo has a chance to kill Gollum, but he remembers the words of Gandalf, where Gandalf says, "You know what? No, I have pity on him, and I didn't. That's why we didn't kill him before." And Frodo decides to have the same. And this act of kindness, actually, that was Bilbo, because Bilbo had a chance to kill him, and Bilbo decided not to. And this pity that Bilbo had, not Gandalf, it was Bilbo, that Bilbo had, and that Frodo has, actually ends up paying off in Return of the King. And this goes to show that these tiny acts of mercy, it's this tiny act of mercy that has big ramifications for the history of Middle-earth. If Gollum is killed by either Bilbo or Frodo, it's highly possible that things do not go as well as they do at the end of this novel. But they meet Gollum, and Gollum, he's a crafty creature. Sam doesn't trust him at all. Frodo doesn't really trust him either, but is willing to give him a chance to kind of prove himself. Gollum essentially leads them into a trap, because at the end of the day, the ring still has a hold on him. He still wants the precious, the ring, and he basically leads them to a giant spider, or at least a creature in the form of a giant spider, very old creature, and they have to face off against Sam and Frodo have to face off against this this giant spider Shelob, who I just have to say really creeped me out when I saw the movie. I'm not a big fan of spiders, and she really creeped me out. And in the book, she's even more horrifying, I feel, in the book. J.R. Tolkien did an amazing job in making Shelob a very frightening creature. Very frightening description of her, and especially with the audiobook when he's describing when they describing Shelob, and they have like the sound effects of her like clattering, chattering along like through the tunnels and hissing and stuff. It's wow, just ugh. But he did a really good job at bringing that into bringing this terrible creature to life in this story. And also, the one last thing before I go, because this is almost 20 minutes long, is the fact that Sam puts on the ring. And that's quite interesting, because he puts on the ring, and you know, when I read that, or when I read that, I wonder, what effect does the ring have on Sam? Or will it have an effect on Sam in Return of the King? Because the ring starts to work on people. It's generally pretty slow, but the ring is now closer to where it was made. And it is said because Sam, while wearing the ring, is able to understand the orcs. And J.R. Tolkien says, well, perhaps he can understand them because the ring is closer to where it was made, that it could be more powerful now, and that's why he's able to understand the orcs without ever having heard their language, or at least understand the language before. So will this ring have an effect on Sam? And I think that's a really interesting question for the next book, Return of the King. So this video has been pretty long, so I'm going to end it there. Those are my thoughts on the Two Towers. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I did the Fellowship of the Ring. And I hope I enjoy Return of the King the same as the Two Towers, or even more. So what did you guys think about the Two Towers? Let me know down in the comment section below. What was your favorite scene, and who was your favorite character in the Two Towers? Let me know down in the comment section also. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please subscribe. If you can follow me on Twitter at GhostReads28, and also the link to my Goodreads is in the description if you want to follow me there. So guys, as always, keep reading.